I think for all of us, this is a next level time on earth. And therefore that means it's time for the healers of the world to go to the next level in their own ways of being and their ways of serving. I think burnout is the path of the early or apprentice healer. And there are people who can burn out later in their career too. And I know I went through 2 rounds of burnout early on. And it's interesting, I think what it actually gives us an opportunity to look at is our own personal growth and our own personal boundaries. How can you possibly continue to show up for others and do your best to bring your energy to the lives of others if you aren't able to recognize when you yourself need your own oxygen mask first? Hello everyone, welcome to this free live broadcast, Becoming a Next Level Healer, and welcome to our Next Level Healer world. This is the world that my team and I have created, from which I will be teaching the Next Level Healer workshop over the course of the 2 weekends I'm delivering all the material. But for today, thank you for joining us for this live broadcast. So, some of you will be watching this in the future on YouTube, but we asked any of you who were interested in this to sign up. And I've just heard from my team that we have around 22,000 of you who have signed up so far to take this broadcast. So that's lovely to be connecting with that many of you around the world who are either healers or are interested in becoming healers. And apparently we have every continent represented apart from Antarctica. So that's pretty amazing. So thank you for being here. And, you know, obviously there are 2 reasons I wanted to do this. On May the 17th and 18th, it will be the first weekend that from this environment, I will be live teaching Next Level Healer. And I will be teaching for several hours each day. And then there will be a 2-week gap so that you can integrate. And then I will do another weekend, which is the very end of May and beginning of June. In the middle, I'm going to do what I call an integration video. I'll be monitoring what's going on with your comments and how you're responding to the material. And I'll do like a midway pre-recorded video for you in the middle weekend. So essentially, it's a little over 2 weeks. But of course, you don't have to be there live. Everything will be recorded. You will have replays. I just wanted to share with you why I did this. So I've been doing something called the Big Love Tour over the last year. And hello to any of you in Australia or New Zealand that we were just with. We finished last Thursday in Melbourne, the Australia and New Zealand leg of the tour. But as we were doing the European and UK leg of the tour in January, before I got on the plane, I basically said to the universe and my guides, show me what to teach in May. There is a window for me to teach something brand new, something live. It will be the first thing I do before initiation at the end of October. I'm doing live events for the rest of the summer and the time and creating other things. But I wanted to teach live one more time this year with something new. So it was interesting. I was on a plane, I think somewhere between Amsterdam and Sweden, or one of the tour stops. And probably inspired by all of the people that I was working with in those rooms, and sometimes in auditoriums with 1,000 people. What I realized is so many of the people who follow my work are healers, or you are practitioners of some kind. That has been a common thread for years. It's not everybody, but it's a high percentage. And that coupled with this knowing that at this time in history, we need more healers than ever. And it's funny, the title Next Level Healer came to me very clearly. And it was a moment also for me to really deepen my connection with that word. Using the word healer triggers some people. You know, people can go, well, aren't we all healers? Yeah, we are. We're all inadvertent healers for each other. If I annoy someone and it brings up their stuff, you could say I'm a healer for them. because I'm putting them into their healing. We're healers for each other in the way that we love each other, support each other, the relationships we go through. So yes, on some level, we are all healers. But those who choose to stand for someone's healing, it's different. Those who choose to, let's say through profession to start with, whether you are a doctor or a chiropractor or a tarot card reader or a nurse or a homeopath or a qigong teacher or a yoga teacher, you are holding space and pouring your energy into the support, healing, transformation, or progression of another individual, or maybe a group, if you're group teaching. So for me, the word healer felt like it covered all bases, and yet, like many words in our time, they can be stigmatized. And there are so many cultural imprints that we have in our world that I think get in the way of healers owning their craft. You know, I've often said that the starving artist and starving healer imprint are very similar. I have been in both camps, and I am friends with lots of artists and creatives because that's part of my archetype, but I'm also a healer, and so that's another archetype in which I've had many friends and clients and people over the years where this starving artist, starving healer archetype can exist. And part of what we have to realize is it's not personal, it's also collective. There has been a stigmatization around healing work. Even today, we see certain, legislative groups trying to remove ancient knowledge or wisdom around healing and instead install a more modern system or a more singular system that is controlled. So it's a very interesting topic, but I got very excited as soon as I got the title because I knew this was it. And so over the past weeks and months, I've been working on what it is that we're going to hold space for. And for those of you who haven't signed up for the course yet, but you're thinking about it, before I go into today's teaching, which will be standalone, by the way, if you're not taking the course, I wanted you to get value today. But before I do that, I'm going to just walk you through the 8 main themes that I'm going to be teaching on. So, moving from scarcity to abundance. Abundance is more than just money, but money is a part of it if that is the resource with which you are paying your rent, earning your living. Understanding the self-care and balance you need to do your work. We're all different, we all have different needs, but understanding our own needs is crucial to be able to serve others. Trusting your personal, unique expression as a healer. The world doesn't need another carbon copy of the person that you admire. You may admire them for different reasons, and there might be elements of them that you're going to align with and bring forward, but you're here to be unique, and all of us are unique. So leaning into and owning that is really important. Number 4, understanding and releasing ancestral wounds or fears of being a healer. This is a big one. And part of my course is intuitive teaching. Part of it will be channeling my guides, the Z's, and I know that they're going to tackle some of the historical imprint of that and kind of moving some energy around that for us. Number 5, developing greater confidence and clarity about your personal healing mission. Developing greater confidence and clarity about your personal healing mission. Number 6, overcoming fears of judgment or persecution to allow your visibility. Overcoming fears of judgment or persecution to allow your visibility. That's in there. That's always in there. For a lot of people who are stopping themselves or hesitating, that's in there. So we're going to get under the hood on that one as well. Number 7, deepening your creative, intuitive, and visioning abilities for your work. Deepening your creative, intuitive, and visioning abilities for your work. And last but not least, understanding your position and meaning as a healer in the world today. It's very important for us to get out of the monocular, where we're just looking at ourselves and our stuff, and to remember why we're doing this in the first place. We have an intersection with the world today. And even if you plan to resign from your job in a year as a healer, Now is a really important time, and you're responding to the times. So I share those 8 themes. There will also be other themes because I'm also doing a lot of Q&A in this course, working live with people. So there will be other things that will come in, but they are the 8 areas that I have been given so far, and I know in the days leading up to the course I will get more. And so there will be some kind of blueprint that I share before we start. So that's Next Level Healer, the course. But today I wanted to, for those of you who might not be taking the course, I wanted to see if I could offer anything to those of you who are becoming a Next Level Healer. Before I do that, couple of things to say. Number one, I'm going to go through a few notes that I've prepared and I'm going to elaborate on them, but we're going to give you all of these notes in a worksheet. So if you're watching this live, you won't have the worksheet now, you'll be listening to me. But after the live is done, if we had your email address because you signed up, we will be sending you the worksheet. And if you're watching this in the future on YouTube or anywhere else, just look underneath the video for the relevant links, and that will get you to this worksheet where you'll have some of my bullet points so that you can sit with these things and remember them. And secondly, I wanted to give some context about me. Some of you may have stumbled on this, you don't know me or my work at all, but the title appealed or it just felt resonant for you right now. So I have been working as a healer for 21 years, and I have been a student of healing since the age of 16, which is now 33 years ago. So I've been a teacher for 21 and I've been a student for 33. I will be a student until the day I die, and I would like to think this is my life path, but who knows? We all change, right? I'm still amazed I'm here doing it 21 years later. So I began because I had a gift of intuition, and I could feel things about people, and if I tuned in on them, I could also see things about their life, their future timelines. Coupled with that, I could channel my guides. So they are 2 separate skills, but they were something I fused in order to do readings for people. I would start on the reading and the Z's, my guides, would finish the reading off. And that's how it started, and that's all it was. I went full-time with that after 2 years because I was getting so many clients coming to me that I could no longer keep up with the job I had. And I, at the time, was working in music, trying to get into the music industry. So I had a lot of different jobs in my 20s that paid the rent, basically, or paid for my workshops that I would go to at the weekend because they were my passion. Eventually, it ended up that this was my work. But at that time, back then, so we're talking 21 years ago, where are we now? Yeah, we're talking back in the year 2004 was when I started. And at that time, being a healer, being an intuitive reader, being a channeler was just not really a thing. And the internet was still very new. It wasn't very established. So even when I would say to people, oh, I have clients and I do them on Skype, people would be like, what? And some people were at that point still like, what's Skype? And of course now it's Zoom. So I started at a very interesting time where technology was just beginning to widen our access to healers all over the world, so that we didn't necessarily have to be with someone in our village or in our community. It was just beginning to open up the world. And of course, I speak to you today in 2025, where it's a wide open playing field in terms of the information you can find. But I very quickly went into creating recordings. I did my first workshop to about 25 people in 2006. And long story short, over the years, I've continued doing my work, but after 15 years, I stopped doing private personal readings because I, at that point, was doing a lot of group teaching and online teaching, and I started a members community in 2013 with 130 people called The Portal, and today we have 6,000 members. So I share all of that, not necessarily because I think you should be using me as a model, because some of you might look at that and it might be certain things that have happened for me and that I have created are appealing to you. But I want to share this as well. Whether you are someone who is a healer who just wants to expand a little bit, so you never want this to be a global thing for you necessarily, but you want to have a flourishing practice with enough people coming through your door so that you can have the practice you want, the life you want. They are the same job. They just have slightly different numbers attached. So yes, there are lessons that you learn when you're dealing at scale that you can't really learn when you're dealing with a smaller group. But energetically, the job is no less valuable. And I remember working with someone who I was working one-on-one with a client who really wanted to expand her business, but she'd got a little seduced by the idea that she had to be globally known. And when we really dug into it, she didn't want to be. It wasn't that she couldn't have been, and it wasn't that she couldn't have overcome fears. It actually wasn't her path. So I say all of that because I'm not in any way advocating that everyone needs to become a worldwide global healer. That's not everyone's path. It's not what everyone is built for. We're all needed at all the levels. And I'll throw this in too. Some of you might be watching this because you're a covert healer. You know, maybe you have a very seemingly traditional job, but you're the one who everyone comes and confesses everything to, or comes to you for advice or wisdom. And maybe you're just beginning to think, is there a way that I can put this into work? So I'm going to go through a few key steps with you that I think are good to look at if you want to become a next level healer. So you heard me speak in the video at the beginning that this is a next level time in the world. We're going into a whole new era. You can feel it, you can see it, you can smell it, you can sense it. People are everything from having breakthroughs to breakdowns. So more people need space held for them in all the ways, or teachers who can show them how to hold space for themselves and help regulate themselves, help transform themselves. But at the same time, many of you might be watching this because it's time for you to put your toe in part-time as a healer now and just try it out. I started very simply as an apprentice doing donation-based readings. I wasn't anyone's apprentice. I just call myself an apprentice because at the very beginning, I did all my readings on donation basis because I was learning. And I was learning how to do it, and it made it accessible and easy for people to find me, and it let me practice. So let's have a quick look at some of the things I wanted to share with you today. Those of you who are ready to become a next level healer in whatever way that looks for you. So if we just get back to my beginning of my themes here, thank you. Okay, so remember all of this is going to be for you on a worksheet if you want to remember these key themes. So we are healers for other humans, and we are humans on our own healing journey. Where the two intersect is often the gold. Many healers specialize in areas they are either naturally passionate about and or teach in areas they themselves have learned and healed through. So a few things to understand here. One of the things I often hear people say is, oh, well, how can I be a healer? I'm not healed enough yet. And that's the same as saying, well, I can't be in a romantic relationship yet because I've got issues. Well, you'll find someone who matches your issues in perhaps a diametrically opposed way, but they'll have enough of a similar level of pain or stuff that they're working through and enough of a similar level of joy and happiness that you'll match. And you'll get to, through your companionship, heal. You don't have to wait to be fully healed. That's not how life works. Unless you have decided on a path of solitude. That's different. You wouldn't be watching this if that was you, though. So remember that there can often be this idea of, oh, well, I've still got issues. You know, I think that actually makes you honest and compassionate. We've all got stuff that we're working through. And the thing is, the more you become aware of how to work with what's moving through you and heal, the faster it goes and you move through higher layers of it. So never discount yourself. The question is, are you able to hold space for other people? Because some people want to be healers, but they're not really interested in holding space for other people. And I think that is crucial. I have seen very good psychics who are terrible facilitators. And the problem with that is, for them, it's all about throwing information at people without actually helping them process it, integrate it, paying attention to how it's landing for them. And if you notice they're confused, do you elaborate? So much of our gift as a healer is how we can hold space for the people or groups that we are working with when we do it. That doesn't mean you can't go home after your work that night and be working on your own stuff. That's life. Everyone's doing that. So when being a healer is your work, it is a muscle and an area that you tap into, and we're always usually tapping into a higher connection as well. So don't discount your ability to help others heal or move through things because you think you aren't fully healed. And in fact, as to my point about a lot of healers will either teach in areas they're passionate about or things that they themselves have learned and healed through. Some of my most, let's say, popular online courses and workshops have been in areas that I myself have really gone through the ringer with. You know, boundaries has been one of my life lessons. I had very few when I was younger. I've learned to have a lot more. And of course, it's an increasing lesson for all of us as you go through a key area. But, you know, teaching on areas like boundaries. And also empaths and narcissists, something else I've had a lot of experience with, but also I've worked with a lot of clients on it. So I'm not just teaching from my own experience. I have seen all these different elements in other people, but I have a connection to it. So there are those areas that you might be a great healer in. You might now be holding space for people that you have, in areas that you have transformed and moved through. And trust me, if I'm about to go hiking up Mount Everest, I would like the leader of that hike team to be someone who's done it before and has done it in arduous circumstances and has been passionate about hiking their whole life. I don't really want to go with the beginner who's enthusiastic. They might be enthusiastic, but they're not going to know the curves and that this is how you deal with altitude. This is how you deal with dehydration. The expert hiker, they've put the hours in and the time in, so they are going to be able to know exactly how to adjust things for me. So let's say you've gone through almighty grief in your life and you've really struggled with it and you've decided to become a grief counselor. You're going to be very compassionate to the people that you're working with because you have a knowing of it, but you will also have trained. So you will have learned enough to be a grief counselor, and then once you start your healing work, I think that's where the real training begins. Because if you pay attention to your people that you're working with, they become the biggest education. And if you stay aware and you remember things, then what will start to happen, and I've noticed this for me over the last 21 years, I'm just much quicker at moving someone through something than I would have been 15 years ago. Just because I have a lot more to pull from, a lot more experience. So yes, I have this connection, but I also have the memory of all the different people I've worked with, and I started to see patterns in things. So this is why you have to start your healing work. You can't train forever. You need to get and do the job and learn on the job and train on the job. But also remembering that if you're passionate about alternative health, it's great that you go and become a healer in alternative health because your passion for that topic is going to carry you through any of the ups and downs and the learnings that you go through with the job. Okay, as a human and a healer, you want to always stay open in your areas of learning and teaching, not just because you evolve, but so do the times and the collective energy of the world. So as a human and a healer, you want to always stay open in your areas of learning and teaching, not just because you evolve, but so do the times and the collective energy of the world. So it's interesting, you know, I think just a personal thing, I created Empaths and Narcissists, this online workshop back in 2017. And at that time, there wasn't a lot out there. Ever since that time, especially once we got to 2019, 2020, those terms became much more commonplace, whereas before I think there were only a few of us who had kind of really tackled that topic. And it's great when you see something hit the culture in that way. But at the same time, if I were to do Empaths and Narcissists now, I would go back and redo all my material because the world's relationship to it has shifted a little bit. So has the collective body of knowledge. And the collective energy of the world is changing. So even though you might have been a healer for the last 30 years, perhaps you're feeling a bit stuck lately, and perhaps you're feeling a little bit burned out or disenchanted. So the question for you becomes, Is it time for you to stop and do something else? Or is it time for you to reinvent? So we're going to look at that after this next couple of sections. So there are two things I wanted to give you as a kind of template or framework. These are just questions to ask yourself that will get you a little more aligned with now, because it's very easy for any of us to get into habits. It's very easy for any of us to have embarked on a job 3 years ago. We've loved it. Maybe it's even been successful, whatever that success looks like, but it's achieved the desired success. But we can get in a rut with it and we need to reinvent. So the first set of questions I have for you is know your mission. Know your mission. So, number one, know your why. Why do I do this? Why do you do healing work for other people? Or why do you want to do healing work for other people? Why? And your why can change as you go through life. And there might be loads of whys, by the way. These don't have to be beautiful answers or answers that you think are very virtuous. For example, one of your whys might be because I don't want to work for someone else anymore. And that might be one of your many whys, and that's okay, because at a certain stage, that will be true. You know, for me, I remember the miracle of going full-time with this work. It was a little unnerving because I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know if it was still going to be flowing in a year or two. But it was like, wow, I'm a full-time healer for people now. Who knew that was possible? And now it's all on me to figure out how I work. I'm not being told where to be. So that can be one of your smaller whys. But I imagine for most of you, why you do this is you have a love for healing. You want to see a better world. You are passionate enough about transformation that you want to facilitate that for others. I think for all of us, the gift of it is, for me, it's always connection and transformation. The connections and the transformations that I have been privileged to be part of as a facilitator or a workshop leader or whatever it is, have been extraordinary. So why do you do this? It's a good question to ask yourself periodically, because if your why starts to change, you may also need to change the form of your job. So I'll leave that with you. Know your why. Why do I do this? And again, when you get the worksheet, you may want to write down some answers. Journaling is so revealing of what's going on in here. If we don't journal, we often don't know. But if we sit and journal and take the 5 minutes to write these things out, you'll be surprised what you'll learn about yourself. And when you learn something about yourself, you can look at it and go, oh, do I still agree with this, or do I need to make some changes? Know your desires is number 2. Know your desires. How do I desire my work to look and feel like? So your desires, this isn't what you think you should be doing or what someone else thinks your success would look like. Your desire might be, I want to work with 5 clients a week and that's all. And I want to earn enough money from that to have the time to tend to my garden or whatever the other thing is, or if you're a parent or whatever. Know your desires. How do you desire your work to look and feel like? And those are 2 different things, but they intersect. So if you're saying, I desire my work to, to look like 25 clients a week because your mind's saying, well, I need that money, but you also feel like you need freedom and rest, and the reality is your clients take you 90 minutes each, you're not going to have much freedom and rest. So this is why you look at, how do I want it to look, what do I want it to look like, and what do I want it to feel like? And see where those 2 are matching up or not, and then make some adjustments. Know your desires. Your desire as a healer is very important. It's easy to abandon that side of yourself because it is a service job and it's in service to transformation. And you're also in service to the unknown of who's coming to stand in front of you, what group you're leading, what person. You have to surrender to the unknown of where they're at. But that's why your desire around your work is very important and mustn't be forgotten. There might be times you can't always fulfill your desires in your work as much as you want because you're growing or you're stretching or whatever. but know your desires. How do I desire my work to look and feel like? It's important to keep that there, because as a healer and a creator and a manifester, if you don't bring that into your awareness, you won't necessarily be driving towards creating it. Number 3, know your values. What values are important to you in your work? What values are important to you in your work? So I remember a business coach doing this exercise with me back about 2018, someone I worked with for a short period. And I remember 3 that came out for me were abundance, love, freedom. I can't remember what the 4th one was right now, but what I remember was it was an incredibly busy time. I was going through a growth period in the work, so I was wearing so many hats every single day. And I identified that for me, freedom was currently being found in going off to do errands in my car, which may not have sounded like a lot of freedom, but that's where I was feeling freedom. I was building an infrastructure for my company that I knew, or I felt, was going to create more of all of the above. It was going to give us a wider way of serving people, a richer, more abundant way of being a production company, more abundance in how many people I could hire, more abundance for me in my life and what I might need. So I was on a mission at that time around growth, but I needed to know I still had freedom. And so that value of freedom for me was something I was feeling the pinch around. So I had to make it a priority, and I had to really find the ways that I felt freedom. And I remember it came to me in a garden center one day. I had to go and pick up some plant pots, I think, or something. And yes, it was an errand, but it felt like such joy and such freedom for me, because I wasn't connected to team members or emails or, you know, what I was clearly overloaded with. So then I started creating a few more pockets like that in my life. You can't always have 3 weeks off, but if you know what your values are, then you can start to make sure you're guarding those values for yourself and also in your work. So, you know, a key value for me is authenticity. And in this, you know, very crazy internet world that we're in, that's an interesting value to hold, because you want to be as authentic as you can while navigating systems that aren't always that authentic. So that's a core value that I work with me and my team. And you know, if something comes across my desk that doesn't feel authentic to us, then we change it, or we cancel it, or we go back to the drawing board. Knowing your values, knowing what's important to you as an individual creator, but also what are important values to you in work that you're putting out to the world. So if you're into authenticity and honesty, you will really not like sales pitches. You will really not like things that are obviously manipulative or fear-based. You will want to be as honest as possible. You may say, well, why is this helpful? Because until you write this stuff down and until you give the space to be investigative about yourself and the work you're doing in the outside world, things don't change. Getting up an hour earlier the next day just to get through more emails doesn't change things. It just is you getting through a to-do list. This is not to do with to-do lists. This is to do with knowing your values and seeing where do my personal values show up in this business and how can I safeguard them? And then also, what are the values in the way I want to present my healing work to people in the world? What do I feel is important? And what am I going to stand behind? Because it's unique to you, this business, this work. So it has to come through your core values too. Okay, and theme number 4, final one for Know Your Mission. Know what you need to learn or improve. Which skills or areas would it benefit you to learn more about? So is there a pain point for you? Like, is there something you know you could be a bit better at and you're resisting learning about it? I'm not talking about, you know, let's say if you're really bad at bookkeeping and you can't stand accounts. I don't know many people who love accounts, but there are some. Then at some point, that's going to be the most important hire for you. When you have reached a point where you can have other people support your business, you go, okay, this is my biggest pain point. I want to farm out the bookkeeping. But I'm not so much talking about that. I'm not talking about areas you don't want to engage in. What do you think you need to learn and improve on? So I've met some healers who are passionate about health, passionate about science, passionate about medicine. They're maybe needing to learn their facilitation skills a bit more. They're brilliant with everything they love absorbing and knowing, but they need to get a little more relational in order to have clients who don't know as much as they do trust them. And you're going to have to bridge the gap to those people most of the time. You aren't going to get experts coming to you, but you might be an expert, and an expert is just someone who knows a lot, researches a lot, studies a lot. And it's their area of passion and expertise because they've put so many hours into it. So know what you need to learn and improve. Which skills or areas would it benefit you to learn more about? So let's say you're saying to yourself, well, yeah, I'd like to lead workshops, but I've never led a workshop. Are you watching other people's workshops? Are you paying attention? Are you finding video footage online? Are you going to a workshop under the guise of, okay, let me study what works here and what doesn't. Let me see what I think I could do. Just start to slowly train yourself in the areas that you think you can improve, because we can all improve. We can all improve on skills. You know, when I did my first direct-to-camera videos, yeah, I was a little rabbit in the headlights, but I've done it so many times now, it's natural to me. But I had to put the time in and the hours in and occasionally watch a video back. Never anyone's favorite thing, but occasionally if I watched a video back, I'd be like, oh, I could change my pace here, or I could... Now, today's pace, I'm going at a bit of a clip because I want to get through all of this for you. Okay, second section, know yourself. So, know your limits. Know your limits. This is an important one. What are your limits on your energy and healing work versus your personal life needs? This knowing leads to better balance and energy consistency. I'll go back to those of you that work with one-on-one clients. You almost need to get successful with that to understand what your limit is. So let's say you're fortunate enough to have 10 or 15 clients come to you 1 week, or 20. You know, you almost need to do the 20 to go, ooh, wow, 20 exhausts me. And at the weekend, I'm just recovering to start again on Monday. So maybe I need to bring this down. Maybe I need to slightly adjust my pricing because I recognize I can only do 15 in a week. So maybe I have a sliding scale for the people who I know need it, but maybe I trust that these other people can afford to pay 20, 30 pounds or dollars or whatever it is extra so that I can take off a few of the sessions I'm doing each week. It's always an ever-changing, ever-moving formula, but know your limits. What are your limits on your energy and your healing work versus your personal life needs? I've seen many people burn out through this, and I definitely have my own 2 burnout experiences where, because you're running spiritual energy and transformational energy, it can feel very electric in the moment, but you do need to recover. The body does need time. The body needs to come back. So often you only figure out your limits the more you commit to the work, but pay attention to that when it comes up. Theme number 2, know your strengths. What are your natural strengths, and how can you lean into those and find ways where people want your strengths that also feel good and alive to you? This knowing leads to more success and passion. So for example, one of my strengths is working with people live. I've done it for 21 years. I love doing it, and so I keep finding ways to incorporate that into my work, whether it's bringing people into an online live workshop, whether it's the touring that we're doing. So what are your natural strengths, and how can you lean into those in ways that feel good and alive to you? That's very important. I've met many healers who go, well, I'm a really good listener and a really good grief counselor, but it might not be good for them to be a grief counselor more than 6, 7, 8 hours a week, because it might start to sap their energy. But that same energy of listening and holding space, you can transfer that skill into another area of healing or creativity and bring that same energy that you have to something else. So it's important to recognize you have a healing energy, and you might need to mix up the form of it so that you're always leaning into your strengths, but in ways that help you feel alive, not used or consumed. I've seen that happen to a lot of people. Okay, and usually that comes from some idea that we're here to save the world, or that it's your responsibility to use all your body and all your life force as a healer for others. That's a myth. We're also here to have our own life experience, and it's important to safeguard time and energy for that. Theme number 3, know your weaknesses. What are pain points for you around this work, or things that feel draining? If you don't want to improve or train in those areas, how can you get support or help for those, or create a system that minimizes these? This knowing leads to alignment and greater happiness. So it's okay to not be great at certain areas. And if they aren't areas you want to improve, like I said, if you don't want to be doing your own bookkeeping, put that on the vision board of, when I make a certain amount of money, that's going to be one of the first things I hire, because that's going to really help me. And it's going to take that pain away so that I can do more of what I do over here. So we've already kind of touched on that one. The next theme is know your lessons. What are key learning areas for you in life or work? And get clear about them so you are not surprised. And also so you can recognize when you're in a growth period in your work. Get support with those, with an outside healer, coach, facilitator. This knowing your lessons, leads to greater ease and wisdom in the flow of your work. You know, at this point, I'm pretty clear about some of my core themes in my personal healing. And so when they show up in the workplace, I'm able to go, okay, here's another boundary lesson for me. I'm being asked to step even deeper into holding a loving but non-attached boundary. So that can be very helpful. If you know what some of your isms and schisms are, some of your own personal learning areas, you just know them and you're clear about them. And then when they show up in work, you don't have to be surprised. You can go, okay, work is now giving me an opportunity to learn about this. Okay, I accept, universe, and I will walk into the lesson. So those are just a few points on knowing your mission and knowing yourself that you might want to just sit and journal with or reflect on, and you'll be surprised the clarity that you will receive from yourself when you go through these questions. It will start to shift and shape your awareness around yourself as a healer and your mission in a way that will start to feed into how you map and vision your next path. Okay, so a couple of short things before we go to Aziz's channel, and these will be on your worksheet. As a human and a healer, you want to always stay open in your areas of learning and teaching, not just because you evolve, but so do the times and the collective energy of the world. And sometimes you resign from certain areas and ways of using your healing energy, and you use your healing energy in new or very different ways. This quote is from the Z's. The path of the light worker is constant change. The path of the healer is also constant change. Maybe your goal is, if I could just for the next 20 years have X amount of clients a week, and then I can take care of my family or do my art or whatever the other thing is, and you feel really set about that, good for you, great. But the world will change and the needs of the world will change. And at the very least, even if you manifest 20 years with clients, what they need is going to adjust as the world is changing. So a few things for you to consider. Know that you can and should reinvent when necessary, or the more you do this work. Know that you can and should reinvent when necessary, or the more you do this work. I've reinvented my video energy updates multiple times over the 13 years I've done them. I've considered stopping them a few times, not for about the last 7 years, admittedly, but I was seriously considering stopping them. But it wasn't that I needed to stop, it was that I needed to reinvent the way I was not only doing those videos, but other areas of my work that felt like they were becoming stagnant. So the path of the light worker is constant change. The path of the healer is to work with change in people and the changing energy of the world. So allow yourself to change too. You will change internally. You can change the form of how you do things. It can be most scary to change things that are quote unquote working or successful. But trust yourself. If you're feeling the nudge to do it slowly. Don't take massive risks, but start to slowly make some changes in that area. And if things keep flowing, then you can follow the flow. Number 2, know you will be actively learning and readjusting as you go. We learn on the job. That's true. You will constantly adjust how you do things. That's okay. That's someone who is staying alive as a healer. That's not someone who learnt a bunch of techniques and is standing in those techniques and not paying attention to the person in front of them, because that's a shadow for some healers too. Theme number 3, a different world calls for a different offering. The world is changing and so are healers. You might be ahead of your time with what you're inventing or what you're creating, and that's okay. We always need pioneers. Then we need the people who are hitting the mainstream. Then we need the people who are niche. All groups are required. So trust yourself with what you're doing. And finally, a different you calls for a reinvented offering. You are changing and so will your healing work too. I don't know about you, but I've gone through lots of changes the last few years, and I'm seeing how they permeate into my work and how I shift the way we do things. And that's never just about me in isolation, because in my work, I'm in relationship to an audience, and I have been for 21 years, and that's the group that I serve. So as we all shift together, it's like an ocean, and you have to know when it's time to shift the way that you're doing things. So I hope that some of those things have given you food for thought. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to, in a moment, channel my guides, the Z's, and we'll see what they have to say about becoming a next level healer. They will be a big part of the course, by the way. I will be channeling them. It will be probably 8 times throughout the course of the 8 different sections over the weekends. So, but before I do that, I just wanted to share with you a short video. One of the things that we're doing with Next Level Healer is community engagement in a new way. So I've asked participants who've already signed up for the course if they would just share videos, short videos explaining what it is they're working on, or what it is they're looking to become, or what their pain points are, so that not only do I get to know them, but they get to have the experience of sharing them, and we as a group get to see what healers worldwide are working on right now. So with the permission of the participants who agreed to let this be played during this broadcast, we've chosen a few just so you can get a feel for what some of our worldwide healers are working on. And when the video finishes, you'll come back here, I will have my eyes closed, and I will be channeling the Z's. So see you in a moment.
I wanted to share with you what I love the most about my healing work. Undoubtedly, it's to be able to see that spark in someone's eyes when you've actually uncovered the why behind their problem. And that leads to healing, not just as a band-aid, but actually uncovering the cause. And when you figure out the cause, you're giving them so much of a tool for them to be able to always heal themselves when they're in a similar situation in their journey.
So my biggest challenges that I currently face in my healing work is definitely fear of negative outcomes, fear that things won't work out the right way, that maybe I'm doing something wrong, that maybe what I think is the right thing isn't necessarily the right thing, and just being able to really bathe in abundant faith is my biggest challenge.
So I trained as a craniosacral therapist and qualified last summer. I'm sort of having a bit of a lull and people aren't coming. I'm finding that that's really affecting my confidence. Yeah, I really want to heal whatever is still kind of limiting me and holding me back, and really step up and do this amazing work for as many people as I can.
Whether you are a seasoned practitioner or just beginning, join us for channeled guidance, powerful teaching, community engagement, and supportive worksheets, and allow your gifts to bring change, healing, and elevation to the lives of others. This transformative 2-weekend live broadcast is designed to help you cultivate a strong sense of grounded presence while being deeply supported to receive healing energy.
Lee brings out my very best ideas and shows me the way to continue on my path more consciously, and helps me clear away fears, blocks, and the fog that self-doubt can bring, and transforms it into strength and positive energy.
Deepen your creative, intuitive, and visioning abilities, overcome fears of judgment, and expand your outlook from scarcity to abundance to enhance your healing work and guide others with greater clarity and confidence. From the comfort of your home, connect with us starting May 17th and 18th. Take your healing to the next level. Next Level Healer with Lee Harris. There has never been a time when healers are more needed.
Good, good. A pleasure to be with you, golden souls. Many of you have incarnated in this lifetime as healers. Some of you because it is the path you have walked before at other times in ancient history, both on Earth and off Earth. And many of you are here to bring back the energy technology of consciousness. You are aware that this is a time where consciousness is rising on Earth, which is also why the shadows are appearing in stronger ways. The cracks are appearing in stronger ways. But you are working on the side of consciousness and developing the consciousness, the healing, the hearts, and the wisdom of others. Some of you do this through bringing the body back to repair. Some of you do this through working with the subtle energy field. Some of you do this through guiding and inspiring and enlightening the mind. There are so many different ways and methods that are needed, and no one method is better than another. For example, there may be an individual on Earth who really only needs to unlock their mind. They already have a good alignment with their body, with their emotions, but their mind is perhaps a little rigid in its belief and therefore is blocking them from experiencing more. So they will go and look for mental healing in one way or another. And then there are others who are using healing to open up their feelings, their experiential way of living. But we want to speak to you about your path as a healer and why many of you incarnate as a healer. Many of you incarnate as a healer as your own path of awakening for a couple of different reasons. You work in this field, as you would call it, because it is an energy field you recognize. It is a high octave energy field, the field of transformation. And many of you remember this from before your incarnation, and you know it to be true. You know that transformation leads to oneness, and oneness is the original octave from which you were all created. So, you are returning to the origin, the source, and the creator when you approach the art and the science of healing. Healing is shifting energy with another being, and sometimes it is shifting the physical, but that always connects and relates to energy also. So the reason many of you incarnated as healers this time is because you wanted to awaken back into that energy field that makes the most sense to you. And you wish that the world looked a little more that way. Well, guess what you are doing as you conduct your healing work? You are creating more healed people, and more healed people will create more oneness on Earth. So, much like a gardener who may not live to see what the garden looks like in 200 or 300 years, but that is not their concern. They are dedicated to fertilizing the life in the garden, getting out the weeds, tending to the needs of the garden, going with each season in the garden, and being in relationship to it and being a custodian of it. They are doing their work to help a garden grow and become. Well, people are gardens for all of you, and you will be fertilizing the world with healed energy, which is why we always say, and Lee referred to this at the very beginning of this broadcast, the healer who works with one is as important as the healer who affects millions. It is a different scale and a slightly different job, yes, but it is the same ripple effect. Yes, of course, a healer who affects millions is reaching a lot of people, but the other thing you have to remember about that is collective energy that has chosen that healer to affect millions is people having a collective experience, which is different to a one-on-one experience. Those of you who deliver your work one-on-one or have, you know the deep intimacy of that work. And it is very powerful, both for the one receiving and the one who is facilitating and conducting or what you might call session or experience. So many of you incarnated here so that you could exist in a field that made sense to you, create more of the energy on the planet that makes sense to you, and in many cases, you decided it would be your path of self-growth. You decided it would be your path of awakening. So when you hear the phrase, healer, heal thyself, you mustn't forget that your path as a healer is your self-growth path. It is its own workshop, if you like. Some of you forget this from time to time and make it all about your perception of yourself. You might say, oh, I am not confident enough. I wish I was more confident. And we will say, well, then your growth is going to be into confidence. How are you going to line up events and your life and your willingness to allow yourself to slowly become more confident and to let go of whatever safety lack of confidence is giving you? For if you are one who lacks confidence, there is an attachment there to something in your past. There is either an unhealed wound or trauma or belief. Many of you have already done the healing, but your mind is on a loop. So your energy field is no longer holding the trauma that made you low in confidence, but your mind is on a loop that is making you behave in a way as if you still have no confidence. Confidence is an action, and it is a series of repetitive actions. It is not necessarily a feeling. There are many who do not feel confident, but they take actions that gradually build them into a certain level of confidence. So a lot of the time you have a perception that you are doing something wrong when you feel stopped or challenged in your work as a healer. And we would say, no, no, no. Actually, your healing path is your healing path for a reason. You are a healer on a healing path, and you can be doing wonderful work for others. And the gift is you get to also work on yourself at the same time. You get to grow and shift and shape through things. There are also those of you who use being a healer as your own path of awakening. Why? Because it connects you deeply to humanity and the intricacies of humanity. And you are interested in that. Some of you, even though you may question, are you a little too, shall we say, self-centered or self-focused in the way you look at yourself and your life? And we say that with no judgment. We just recognize there are some of you who are tuning in on this who wonder if that is the case. Usually that is just because you do not have enough stimulation in your outer world. So in much the same way that many heal through isolation, and isolation can be healing until it turns on you. This is something we have said before. There are periods in your life where you need to stay alone or isolate, but if isolation just becomes a habit or a pattern, eventually isolation will turn on you, because you will no longer be bringing in any new oxygen. You will no longer be bringing in any new energy, and you need new energy for growth. It is your fertilization. New energy helps you grow in different ways. So, new energy is your plant food, and you are a plant. So you need some of that to allow you to shift to the next level of yourself, your growth. So our point to you is, many of you have chosen this identity of healer as a, let's call it a form or identity through which you are going to grow in your role toward humanity. Some of you also have fear of owning this role because it is you owning your spirituality. It is no different, the one who is embarrassed to tell the friend about the spiritual workshop they just went to, than the one who is embarrassed to say, oh, I am a healer. You will get the same occasional confusion or stigma from certain people, and if you are not prepared or feel underconfident about handling those questions that may come, or those reactions that may come, you will back away from it altogether. Those of you that stand as a healer, it's not about you. You are adding to the large group on earth who stand for healing. You are adding to the large group on earth who stand for healing as a path as a way and as a through line to elevation, which is something that is often scrubbed out of human knowledge. Your ability to heal as humans and as souls is extraordinary, but the way it has been approached through, shall we say, more traditional society controls and guidelines has been to minimize that in people's awareness. The ancients and those who have kept the flame of healing alive all of these years and carried it through story, through song, through ceremony, through passing down through lineage, these, shall we say, ways, they have been very important, and they still are. But there is a new element at work on Earth now. Since 2020 especially, the consciousness on Earth has risen. And what that means is more of you are able to tap into your own spiritual connection and guidance in ways that you were not previously able to. This is partly because more and more people have stood for healing and been advocates for, shall we say, looking at things outside the box, outside the norm, outside the narrative, the mainstream narrative. There was a big opening beginning in 2020 because of all of your world events, but also a greater need for people as they felt less stable in themselves to seek support, help. And so, this is why we say this is a next level time. It is not only a next level time in the world where more people need healers, it is going to be this coming decade. So from 2025 to 2035, the progression on Earth around healing and what is possible and the understanding of what is possible is going to feel like light years of progress. So there are many of you who are also feeling the enormity of the coming times. Notice whether the enormity of the coming times makes you nervous or excited. And we would say to you, the fear we can work with, and so can you. And we can look with you at these fears you may have and where they are coming from and where they exist in the collective so that you can detach from them. That is something we are going to be doing as we embark on this next level healer journey with you. That will be one of the elements. Unhooking you from collective fear so that all that remains is any personal fear, and then that will be what we look at next. So, we say all of this to honor those of you who choose the healing path. You choose it for a reason, because it feels good and it feels like home to you. But also remember, many of you are midwives to others of their awakening journey. You may be one of the first healers a human comes to. You may be a specialist, and therefore this is not necessarily your truth, but for many of you, you are going to be the first introduction to healing that many people will have. So, you do it with love, you do it with care, you do it with an openness, you do it without arrogance or ego, because both of those things are irrelevant in true healing. They don't actually exist. Those are human constructs. Instead, you have the privilege of connecting yourself to divine source, marrying it with your knowledge and inherent and learnt wisdom, delivering that to a person while sensing what it is they might need, and going at their speed and their capacity so that they can rise with you rather than feeling bombarded or overloaded. So, the path of the healer is deep, multi-layered, and highly personal. But those of you who are in the healer group around the world, yes, you are a tribe, and you are connected. And even though you may not know of each other, you are all lighting up the grid of the planet in the same way at the same time. And equally, for each of you, it is very good to connect to that energy. We know that many of you who are healers may have days where you feel like you don't really want to do it, or you're a little tired, and then you do it. And in most cases, unless you're doing something that you should really be resigning from now, you will feel lit up and reconnected through the doing of this work. Because what you do is you offer to take someone to a higher place. And through your skills, your awareness, your willing, and your surrender to healing energy itself, you will be the one to help take or guide or, if necessary, lift them there until they themselves can recognize the place that you have put them into and start to stabilize and become it for themselves more regularly without your help. So, as you elevate others, you get to elevate yourself. That is the energetic reward and the underscore to being a healer for others. You will be healed in yourself as well, in ways that you will perceive and ways that will be subtle and imperceptible to you, but you will start to notice those things paying off in your life. And for example, if you are, let's say, a workaholic and you become a very successful healer, you will not be able to stay a workaholic for very long before the universe will ask you to let go of that paradigm and that pattern. It's not required to be a workaholic to be a successful healer, although that is a human belief around success. And it's less to do with success than the way that you were all trained to be workers on this planet. And you're in a system that requires many of you to be workers. So remember, those of you who do your healing work, you may be bringing healing to one of the people who is going to be the architect of breaking down that paradigm on the planet. Your role may be to help them heal, but their role may be to create new architecture on this planet that liberates so many from some of the trappings that exist on Earth so that they can return to the high points that are accessible on Earth more often, with greater frequency, and with a clearer knowing of how to get there. Someone wants to get more into their heart. They work with you for a series of sessions or period of time. They become more activated in their heart center. They start using their heart in their life more. That is good for the world. That is part of the garden you tended to. And as a gardener, you are feeding not just the tree of knowledge on Earth, but also the tree of healing. So, we will leave it here, for there is much that has been imparted across the course of this hour. And we do encourage you to look at the themes that were delivered by Lee, but co-created by us and Lee. We encourage you to journal on some of those questions you were asked, because it will reveal a great deal about who you are and where you are. And when you know who you are and where you are, then you can start to decide where you would like to go next with this new information. Good. So, a pleasure to be with you all today. And for those of you who will be with us on the Next Level Healer journey, we look forward to diving in. It will be deep, but you will have time to integrate in between, and it will be paced in such a way that you will not feel bombarded. Instead, you will feel fed and liberated. Good. In peace, in love, and in healing to all. Okay, well, thank you everybody. We have come to the end of today's live broadcast. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I wonder if anybody did join from Antarctica while we were going. I hope you enjoyed some of the points. I moved through things very quickly because I wanted to get as much into today's broadcast as I could. But do try the journaling with those questions. You'll be surprised what will get revealed for you. I also hope that the Channel from the Z's was enjoyable, and as I said, they're going to be a huge part of the course as well. Really getting under the hood of some of the energetics, particularly ancestral and collective things. Not just ancestral wounds, but also ancestral wisdom and knowledge that we all came here wired with. That I think when you go into your healing work and you experience the realm of healing, a lot of that can come back through. And these are very powerful times in terms of reactivating who we were and who we are. So, a pleasure to be with you all. I look forward to joining you all for Next Level Healer, which begins on March 17th and 18th. There will be an integration video the following weekend, and then there will be the final weekend, 2 weekends after the first one. So all details are found at the links. Big love, everyone. Good luck with your healing work in the world and your healing journey. Much love.